Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The waves move endlessly, shifting between calm serenity and crashing intensity. You cannot stop them. You cannot control their rhythm, but you can learn to sail, to navigate their unpredictability with skill and presence. Life is no different. The world around us is in constant motion, filled with distractions, expectations, and forces beyond our influence. Yet, amid the chaos, we can cultivate mastery, not by controlling everything, but by learning how to move through it with clarity, discipline, and resilience. This is the essence of Stoicism. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, were not mere philosophers sitting in distant towers contemplating abstract ideas. They were leaders, statesmen, and survivors of hardship, people who lived through war, exile, betrayal, and personal suffering, yet remained unshaken. Their principles were not just intellectual exercises. They were tools for enduring life's difficulties, for achieving peace of mind, even when everything seemed to be falling apart. And the most remarkable thing, these principles are not bound to ancient Rome or Greece. They are just as relevant now as they were 2,000 years ago, perhaps even more so. In today's world, we are drowning in excess, too much information, too many distractions, an overwhelming flood of demands pulling us in every direction. We chase after more success, more possessions, more approval, only to find ourselves exhausted and disconnected from what truly matters. But what if, instead of doing more, we learn to do less but better? What if we stripped away the unnecessary, removed the distractions, and focused on the essentials? What if we applied the wisdom of the Stoics, not just as an intellectual curiosity, but as a guide to immediate, tangible life progress? That is what this episode is about. 15 Stoic principles, each one a practical key to living with greater purpose, resilience, and clarity. These are not just ideas to ponder, they are tools to act on. Starting now. Take a breath, let go of what you cannot control, and let's begin. The modern world glorifies productivity, yet few people stop to ask whether they are being productive in ways that actually matter. We fill our days with endless tasks, meetings, and notifications, mistaking movement for progress, activity for achievement. The Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less, or rather, do what's essential." This isn't about laziness, it's about precision. Most of what we do is noise, habits we repeat without thinking, obligations we accept without questioning, distractions that drain us without adding value. We say yes too often. We divide our attention too thinly, and then we wonder why we feel stretched, scattered, and unfulfilled. Picture an archer drawing their bow. If they aim at everything, they hit nothing, but if they focus, steady their breath, and align with a single target, their chances of success increase exponentially. The same applies to life. The key is not to do more. It's to do less with greater intention. Each morning, instead of drowning in a long list of tasks, ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do today that will have the greatest impact? Identify it, protect it from distractions, commit to it fully, and say no ruthlessly to what does not serve it. Because every yes to the trivial is a no to the meaningful. Every moment spent on the unnecessary is a moment stolen from what truly matters. We often believe that busyness equates to importance, that if we are constantly in motion, We must be getting somewhere, but movement without direction is just wasted energy. The Stoics remind us that a life well lived is not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things and doing them well, like a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble. The masterpiece of your life is not built by adding more, but by removing everything that does not belong. What remains is clarity. What remains is excellence. A ship without an anchor drifts aimlessly, vulnerable to every change in the wind and tide. Without something to hold it steady, it has no control over where it ends up. Life is much the same. Without a core philosophy, a set of guiding principles, we are pulled in every direction, influenced by fleeting trends, external pressures, and the expectations of others. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that having a clear philosophical anchor, a personal framework for understanding the world, was essential to living with stability and purpose. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the world, wrote to himself as a student of philosophy, constantly reminding himself of the principles that grounded him. His anchor was the belief that virtue, acting with wisdom, justice, courage, and discipline, was the highest good, no matter what chaos surrounded him. This belief kept him steady. Seneca, on the other hand, anchored himself in the idea that time was our most precious resource, and wasting it was the greatest mistake a person could make. Epictetus, a former slave, found his anchor in the realization that while we do not control what happens to us, we always control how we respond. Each of them lived vastly different lives, yet they all found strength in defining their own philosophy and living by it. Most people never take the time to ask themselves, what do I truly believe? What values guide my decisions? What principles do I stand by? Even when things get difficult, instead, they absorb whatever influences surround them, the culture, the media, the opinions of those closest to them. Without realizing it, they become reactive rather than deliberate, floating through life without a solid foundation. But there is a simple exercise that can change this. Take a moment to reflect on the moments in your life when you felt most clear, most sure of yourself, most aligned with something deeper. What was driving you in those moments? What core belief was shaping your actions? That is your anchor, and once you define it, everything else becomes easier. Decisions become clearer. Distractions lose their power. Challenges become tests of character rather than sources of suffering. A person with a strong philosophical anchor is not shaken easily. They do not seek approval from the world because they already know what they stand for. They do not panic in the face of uncertainty because they have something solid to hold on to. And when the storms of life inevitably come, they may bend, but they do not break, because no matter how strong the winds, the anchor holds. A traveler burdened by the weight of unnecessary luggage moves slowly, struggling under the load of things they don't need. The same is true for the mind. Most of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from the way we respond to them. We carry too much, holding on to worries about the future, regrets about the past, frustrations about things beyond our influence. The Stoics teach us one of the most liberating principles of all. Focus only on what you can control and let go of everything else. Epictetus, who was born a slave and later became one of the most respected Stoic teachers, put it simply, some things are within our power, while others are not. The distinction is everything. Your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your attitude, these are within your control. the opinions of others, the past, the randomness of the world. These are not. Yet most people live as if the opposite were true, spending endless energy trying to change what is unchangeable, worrying about things that are entirely outside their influence, while neglecting the one thing they do have power over, themselves. Think about how much frustration comes from this mistake. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and you spend the next 10 minutes replaying the moment in your mind, cursing their rudeness. A colleague gets undeserved praise at work, and resentment eats away at you, even though their success has no impact on your own. You set a goal, but external obstacles arise, and instead of adapting, you feel defeated. In every one of these cases, the suffering does not come from the event itself, but from resistance.